Hello, my name is Darwin Ramos, and this is my co-host, Victoria Piercentini. We are here on behalf of the mock trial team, interviewing State Representative Candidate Bob Toomey, running for election in the 7th Plymouth District. Candidate Toomey, if you could take a brief moment to tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much first for having me. I appreciate the time you're taking, and I think it's great that you're involved. Get youth involved is important. These national elections in particular, in the local elections, will affect your lives directly. So I really appreciate the fact you invited me and that all of you are being involved in this, and it's a tremendous opportunity. I'm Bob Toomey. I'm a retired Boston police officer. I live in Abington, and I am running for state representative, for the 7th Plymouth District, which includes Abington, Whitman, and East Bridgewater. I think that we need some representation there on Beacon Hill in order to help facilitate and ease our lives here, particularly in this district. The economy's tough, and I think I can help solve some of the issues that are affecting our daily lives.
Thank you.
Now on to the interview. Drastic budget cuts in our school districts have repeatedly put the jobs of our teachers at stake, as well as risking many of the unique programs offered by our school. How do you plan to support our local educational system?
The main problem I see with that is Chapter 70 funding. And there is a formula that the state uses to send money to the schools throughout the state. However, I don't think anyone knows what the formula is. So one of my first acts would be trying to get a formula that people can identify with and understand why certain towns get the certain funding they get. Obviously, we have to increase it. Transportation costs in particular are very high here, and I understand you're not allowed to charge for transportation. So the state is supposed to pay 100%, and the district's lucky if it gets 50%. So one of my obligations, I feel, would be to try to make the state live up to their obligations and reimburse you at 100%. Because you have to have the money to pay for teachers, to get quality programs. This is exceptional. It's my first visit through the high school, and I'm very impressed. And I can see why it's considered the model for these new high schools that are being built around the state. But Chapter 70 funding, we have to reformulate it in order to get the funding, or I believe where it should be spent.
The district currently budgets over $1 million in transportation. Because Whitman-Hanson is a regional school district, the district cannot legally charge busing of students who live a mile and a half more than from their school. Regional transportation reimbursement from the state has been fully funded 100%, and it's the same thing. As a result, the districts pay for a majority portion of schools. Conley and Duval, we adjust to reduce transportation costs and save teaching position. This has resulted in early start time, which is challenging for students and staff at the high school. What do you plan to do about the laws regarding regional transportation?
Well, that's kind of what I just touched on in the first question about reimbursing the district at its fair cost. But one of the problems, a lot of it is busing, having the number of buses to transport kids. We go through the same thing in Abington. They started with 725 at Abington High School. And the reason is they need the buses to get the group of students from the town to Abington High School. Then those same buses have to take kids to the Folio Junior High School. Then they have to get the next group of kids to the Woodsdale School for the 4th and 5th graders, then to the Beaver Brook Elementary School, and then to the kindergarten. So in order to get those 6 schools serviced, 5 schools serviced, and you only have so many funds to pay for buses, they have to start early to end the day early, which is, I think, 3:15 for the last kids get out at the other end. So my main goal would be to try to get Chapter 70 funds to increase it, and also to make the state pay their 100% obligation, because you're spending money on transportation that could be better used to maybe buy another bus or two so that kids can start at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I mean, it's tough starting at 7:05. Even the teachers, I'm sure, have some trouble, because they have family lives. You know, a lot of the teachers have to get kids ready for school, and they come in and start teaching at 7:05. It's a pretty early start, so I would like to change that.
There has been an increase of number of clients being supported by local food pantries. Do you plan to grant aid to these food pantries?
I'd like to grant aid if there's money there. I actively involved in Abington Food Pantry. I do a cable show similar to this, which I'm glad you folks are doing. And we interview twice or 3 times a year. We have Bob McCabe, who's one of the bosses at the Abington Food Pantry, come on and talk about the needs that the food pantry needs at that time. A lot of people, of course, think about the food pantry at Christmas time and Thanksgiving time, but people need to be fed 24/7 and 12 months a year. So I've already involved helping out with that, and Bob Hogan, who is involved in the Whitman Food Pantry, is helping me out. And he's been sick, and actually, Bob, if you're watching this, I hope you're recuperating. So we already do some work with them. I'd like to get some state money there. I don't know if that's reasonable, but we can certainly get some private money there, and I'd be active in trying to solicit money for that cause.
Why do you want to represent the district?
I believe it's the next step in my own career. I'm 51 years old. I grew up in South Boston, which is a very politically active town. I grew up campaigning for Louise Day Hicks initially, and then Mayor Kevin White, and working for Mayor White. I've had government roles. I was a researcher in the budget office, Office of Management and Budget. I was in the Mayor's 24-hour hotline, constituent service hotline. I was a Boston police officer. I do, right now, I work with DCF as a subcontractor. Any foster parent under federal law, any foster parent that wants to be considered, any parent that wants to be considered for foster parenthood has to be fingerprinted in the background check by the state police and FBI. I'm a fingerprint expert, trained by the FBI and deemed by the courts as an expert. So I fingerprint potential parents for foster care to make sure these kids aren't going into homes of drug abusers or pedophiles, etc. I've been elected, and since I moved to Abington, I've been very active in youth sports. Two of my boys are here today. Some of you got to meet them. I coach youth baseball, basketball, football. I substitute teach at Abington High and at East Bridgewater High. I do CCD. I teach CCD class. So I'm very involved. I've been elected in Abington to the trustees of the public library. I've been elected as a sewer commissioner in Abington. So I have a great feel of what's going on in the community and what the needs are, and I'd like to spread that and try to gain more knowledge about what we need to do in Whitman and East Bridgewater. So I think just because of my government career, my political career, I think I'm the guy for the job.
How do you plan to help small businesses in towns?
Well, the tax rate is tough. If it's possible to lower it, I don't see that happening. I think one of the ways we could help would be unemployment insurance. Oftentimes, you may have an employee that works maybe 6 months or so, makes maybe $200 a week, and then quits or leaves for their own reason, and the unemployment has to be paid to them. And then the people that own that company, their unemployment insurance rates go up. So we have to find a way to regulate that, to keep the costs of insurance and government regulations down. A lot of red tape is involved. So I would have to work with the small businesses on that, because they have certainly better ideas of where the problems are than I do. And I've been talking to businessmen, particularly on Route 18, which is the thoroughfare from Abington through Whitman to East Bridgewater. So I certainly take ideas from people. I don't know it all, and I'm a good listener.
Would you support the legalization of medical marijuana?
As long as it's medicinal marijuana, medical marijuana, I really think it's all right, particularly if it's in liquid form or pill form. I think if it's the leafy form product that's being used, you'd have to make sure that other residents, family members don't have access to it. You don't want to involve secondhand smoke. But there are a lot of people that suffer, and medicinal marijuana does ease the pain. So, you know, I can understand why people would want it, and I guess I would support it.
If elected, would you support the legalization of prescripting medication to the end of life of a terminal ill patient?
No, I wouldn't. And one of the problems I have is it's assisted suicide is the common term they use for that. Having been a Boston police officer, I did what they called, we called it identification, but now it's called CSI. I used to photograph and fingerprint homicide scenes and potential homicide scenes and unattended deaths. So I think that there's too easy a situation that could develop where you'd have assisted homicide. You know, people would say, oh no, he was sick and he wanted to die, and it just opens up Pandora's box. If a person is that sick and really wants to end his life, there are ways to do it without getting medical assistance. I don't think people should do that, but that's their choice. Doctors take a Hippocratic oath to save lives, and I don't think they should be involved in ending lives. It's just not, to me, that's between them and their conscience, but I'd be against it.
Well, those are all the questions. Thank you very much for coming out here.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. You've been good hosts.
Thank you.
And for the future, stay involved and get a good education. I'm relying on you, so please get a good education. Help pay Social Security for me.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
This is Bob Toomey. We are Whitman-Hanson. We are signing out.